Well, this is going to be fun. I get to talk football with two guys who played with both the Philadelphia Eagles and the Philadelphia and Baltimore Stars, the two-time USFL champion Stars. Let's say hello to John Bunting.
Great to be with you, Chet.
And Ken Dunek. Hey, guys.
Hey, I am here and excited as well. Thank you.
Well, we're going to talk lots of football with you both, including the Eagles' outlook here in the postseason. But we're going to start with a discussion about the old USFL Stars, as that great mid-1980s franchise, the two-time league champions, as I said, will be honored Thursday evening at the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association's annual banquet. John, I'm going to ask you first. In the Stars' 3 seasons of existence, 83 to 85, the team was 48-13-1, including the postseason. How good were those teams?
All we did was win all the time. It was a pleasure with that group. And, of course, I refer to the useful league. That was great for me because yours truly, after the 82 strike, was released about 2 weeks after that season ended. And fortunately for me, Carl Peterson was the president of the Stars and recognized that I still had a little bit of gas left and thought I could contribute to a young football team, which we were. And it was so much fun. It was the most fun I ever had playing pro football.
Well, Ken, you were a backup tight end on the Eagles' 1980 NFC title team. How'd you end up with the Stars in 83?
So I had just been released from the New York Giants in 82, and I was trying to figure out my next move, and I was teaching tennis at the Cherry Hill Racket Club, and Carl Peterson brings his daughter in to give her tennis lessons, and he says to me, where are you signing? I said, I'm not sure yet. He goes, do you want to play in the USFL with the Stars? I said, how much you paying? He goes, the same as you made with the Eagles. I said, sign me up. Let's do it. So I joined them in the fall of 82, and our first camp was February, I believe, of 83. And then people like John and I and Scott Fitzke, who had played with the Eagles and in the NFL for a bit, and John obviously had an illustrious career in the NFL. We were really appreciative of the chance to continue to play in the game that we loved, and we took it very seriously. And then Carl Peterson mixed in all these great rookies like Kelvin Bryant and Bart Oates and Sean Landetta, and they just bought into Irv Eatman, and they just bought into how important it was for us, and we created this dynasty, and it was really a pleasure to be a part of that team.
Look at these young guys. Hey, John, do you still have that USFL card somewhere?
I still get sent cards, and I send them out. I sign them, and hey, I'm pretty relaxed there on the sideline.
Hey, yeah. Hey, John, look at the size of those pads. Look at the size of those shoulder pads. Are you kidding me?
Different in today's world, that's for sure.
Did either of you guys ever read a book on the sidelines like we caught A.J. Brown doing last Sunday?
A playbook maybe, but not a novel.
That's about it.
Hey, let me ask you about your coach. I'm talking, of course, about Jim Mora. That's him now on the left, celebrating that 1984 title. He was something of a legend who, had a long coaching career in the NFL, the great Jim Mora. He's now 89 years young, by the way. Any particular memories of Coach Mora? John, you go first.
I think Jim Mora is a great coach. He's not a spitting image of Dick Vermeil, but he's got a lot of similarities. Lots of discipline. Hard work was the word that we all used in that locker room. And he hired a great staff. Vince Tobin was our defensive coordinator, a tremendous football coach, God rest his soul. Really loved that defense that we played. Very different from what I played with the Philadelphia Eagles with Marion Campbell. With the Stars, we just had a lot of defense, a lot of things that we would do coverage-wise, blitz-wise, front-wise. We were always tooling and retooling. And
John, don't forget that Vic Fangio was on that Star staff as well, who's had an incredible run here and doing so well with the Eagles. I concur. The coaching staff was excellent. You had guys like Jim Erkenbeck, who had been around pro football for years, and Carl Tater Smith, who went on to coach a lot in the NFL. Joe Marciano was my tight ends coach and special teams coach, and he coached special teams in the NFL for years. And of course, let's not poo-poo John's coaching resume, which is pretty good. Followed Jim to the Saints, and then for Coach Vermeil with the Rams and Chiefs, and He was right up there, and he was actually took a coaching position in 1985. And I remember, John, I don't know if you remember this day, but you had decided to retire and you were coaching. And I came in the locker room day and you had your pads on. I said, "What the hell are you doing?" He goes, "Well, they're short players. They need me on scout team." I said, "Are you out of your mind?"
Another reason why I enjoyed that team so much. I got to go back out there and play a little bit, or at least practice a little bit. At one point, they were saying that because of the injuries to the linebackers, that I might be suiting up. But I actually went through a week's practice, and then Jim Mora pulled me into his office on a Friday or a Saturday. He goes, "Hey, you're not playing. Mr. Tannenbaum, he doesn't want you to play. He's afraid you're going to get hurt."
Oh, gosh. How about that?
Hey, Ken, you mentioned Vic Fangio, and there he is way back in 1984. So, John, let me ask you, what was Vic Fangio like as a 25, 26-year-old defensive assistant?
Of course, I got to coach with him in '85. But he is a very smart guy. Of course, he coached at North Carolina, came to the Stars. He had a lot going for him. And once again, I think he tutored under Vince Tobin and gained an awful lot. Vince Tobin did a lot of things. And I think that's what makes Vic so special, is he's not afraid to do a lot of things. Pressure, zone pressure, man pressure, different fronts. As a matter of fact, I brought Vic down to UNC to tutor my defensive staff and show them how the zone pressures work. And he stayed at my house for 3 days. Really good guy, really smart guy.
Wow. Hey, if I remember, Ken, you guys in 1984 were getting 30,000 fans for some games. I think you had 37,000 at the home finale that year. That's pretty good for a team in its second year of existence.
You know, the crime of it is that we were forced to move to Baltimore in '85 after winning the '84 USFL championship. And you're right, we averaged, I think, a little shy of 29,000 per game. Had we come back and were able to play at the Vet in Philly in '85, I'm sure that would have been 40 or 50,000. And we have been off to the races. Of course, everybody's familiar with the politics of how that all went down. And it was a shame. And it cost a lot of people their jobs and the ability to continue to play pro football. After the league folded, I had just signed a fairly big deal with the Stars, and then the league folded. The Steelers came at me with, I was making half the money that I was going to be making with the Stars, and at that point, I just decided to retire. But yeah, the league was fantastic with great players, Hall of Fame players. Anybody that says that the Stars could not have competed in the NFL, and John, maybe you can jump in on this, I think is being silly, because every significant player on the Stars, I believe, had NFL experience either before or after the league folded. Would you agree, John?
Many of those players went on and played a long time in the NFL, and particularly the brothers on the offensive line, Bart Oates and his brother Brad. And once again, we had a great offensive line and a killer running back in Kelvin Bryant, and we had a quarterback named Chuck Fusina, who had played in the NFL some, but he was a winner. He had a great attitude, and he could throw all the throws, but basically he didn't make any mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get to Chuck in just a minute, but another one of the stars on the Stars, of course, was one of your fellow linebackers, and that would be Sam Mills. And we know Sam Mills' story. We lost him a few years ago, but he did go in posthumously to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. John, speak a little bit about Sam Mills.
Sam Mills is the only one that ever beat me to the film room. He was a student of the game. You know, he had been released 2 or 3 different times in the NFL. And I remember Jim Mora telling the story that when he first brought him into camp, he said, "I don't know if this guy's going to make it. He's too small." Yeah. And he got out there on the field and he showed what he can do. He was also my warm-up partner in pregame, and he used to jolt my helmet backwards. He'd almost hurt me during pregame. He is so strong and he is so stout, and he had a the timing of a linebacker to deliver that forearm blow, smart as a whip, called our signals. He just was a tackling machine, and also a terrific person, a really, really good guy.
And the quarterback, you mentioned Chuck Fusina. Ken, I believe Chuck will be at the PSWA banquet on Thursday. What do you remember about the Stars quarterback those 3 seasons, who happened to be the league's player of the year in 1984?
Well, like John said, really smart, a great leader, a positive attitude. He had enough arm strength to do all the throws. I know he was knocked a little bit for a perceived lack of arm strength. I didn't see it. I mean, he could throw it deep. He could throw it with touch. But his main thing was very smart and a great leader. And when you got in the huddle with Chuck Fusina on offense, you were confident when it was time to win the game that he was going to get it done somehow. And John and Chuck have remained 2 of my closest friends for 40 plus years. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that I got to play with these 2 guys, and what a great team we had.
I actually had a class at Penn State with Chuck back in 77 or 78 when we were both out there. And I got to see him again when he went into the Pennsylvania Hall of Fame back in 2016. So I'm looking forward to seeing Chuck once again. Hey, John, take us back to July of 1984. What do you remember about beating the Arizona Wranglers down in Tampa and the celebration in Philly that followed a few days later?
It's my 34th birthday. July 15th, 1984. I get to celebrate on the field, off the field, and I don't think I went to bed that night. And we boarded the plane, and we were just a joyous group. We got to fly home and then have the parade down on Broad Street. There was a ton of people there.
Oh, yeah.
We were truly celebrated in the great town of Philadelphia, and once again, I believe I'm right when I say this, Ken. Did we not, after that game, fly over to London and play?
Well, yeah, here's the deal. We win the championship. Obviously, we're in heavy party mode. We get home. We got the parade. We're still partying. And then a couple days later, we got to get on a plane and do an exhibition game in London. So, the players are still hung over on the plane as we're flying over there. We got the wives and everything. We get to London and we think we're going to celebrate and have a good time. And Moore goes, practices at 2:00. We got to get our pads on and go to practice in Hyde Park. You remember he wasn't, Jim Moore was so serious about football. We just won the championship, but it didn't matter. He was going to put a good product on the field. And that's what we did.
Well, guys, after that 84 championship season, as you discussed, the franchise moved to Baltimore, sort of. You never actually played in Baltimore. You practiced all week in Philly, played games in College Park. That must have been crazy.
That was crazy. We practiced in Philly, and then we would get in our cars and drive down to Baltimore someplace, Maryland, where the University of Maryland played their games, and that's where we played our games. We had so many crazy guys on our team, the Tommy Donovans and that and the other. We're passing each other and making signs and hanging out the windows, and we just had a great time together. It was a very great personality team.
John, I think I remember you mooning me on one of the trips. I don't want to tell tales out of school, but Chet, here's the thing about that team. As John said, we played and practiced. We practiced in Philadelphia, played in College Park. It was actually easier for us to go on the road because it was a 2.5 to 3 hour drive down to College Park. The airport was only 20 minutes away. We could dump our car and just jump on the plane. So it was one of the most unique experiences. I think what that team overcame. As you recall, John, we got off to a really slow start. I think we had to win 5 or 6 of our remaining games, 5 of the last 6 remaining games just to get into the playoffs. But we always knew if we could get into the playoffs somehow, we still had that championship DNA, and we proved it. And we won. We beat the Generals. We beat Birmingham, who had a very good team on the road. And then we had a rematch with Oakland, which was the old Michigan Panthers, Bobby Hebert and Anthony Parker. And they were a great team, and we beat them. I think it's one of the best accomplishments in pro sports, given all the circumstances.
I'm glad to see that you guys will be celebrated Thursday night at the Sports Writers Association banquet. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ken, looking forward to seeing you there. John, we'll send you pictures after the fact. But I'm
really going to miss it. There's a bunch of guys there that I would love to see, but I have I've had a serious ailment with myself, and I went to Bill Bergey's funeral a couple of weeks ago, and it set me back a little bit. God bless Bill. A lot of people were there. It was terrific too, just to honor that man.
And that's exactly what I was going to lead into. In 2023, Frank LeMaster passed, and then a mere 3 weeks ago, Christmas morning, in fact, the Eagles did lose one of their all-time greats, your old teammate and fellow linebacker, Bill Bergey. John, talk a little more about the great Bill Bergey.
One of the greatest athletes that I've ever been around. 6'3", 245, 250 pounds, and runs a 4.65 40. He was truly a bear out on the field. I mean, he could really bounce around. What a physical player, tremendous speed and quickness. He had like 27 interceptions. I mean, he just had a knack for knowing what was going on. And he was a pleasure to play with because he was always upbeat. When we'd have one of those 3-hour Friday Dick Vermeil practices, and he'd call us up when we're all kind of just mad as hell, let us get home, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, Bill Bergey would go, hey, let's have some fun, guys. Let's do it. That high-pitched voice of his would, come on. He enjoyed playing the game. He really did.
John, I remember being in Otho's training room and watching Bill get his knee drained before every game, and people don't realize, and you suffered a similar type of a knee injury, but his knee was the size of a small watermelon, and they would take a bunch of fluid out of there, and he would somehow tape it up and get ready to play. Certainly one of the toughest individuals I've ever been around. And, we were able to, myself, Harold Carmichael, Reggie Wilkes, and John Spagnola went to go say goodbye to him a couple months ago when we saw this heading in the wrong direction. And that toughness remained. He said to me, he said, Kenny, I'm not afraid to die. He goes, I just want to make it to Christmas for my family. He died on Christmas Day. Yeah. So he was an amazing person, really honored to have been his teammate.
No doubt. No doubt.
Our final 2 minutes, guys. Eagles, Rams Sunday. Ken, you first. What do you make of this Eagles season? Is Jalen Hurts good enough at quarterback to get this done with the defense that we have? What are you thinking?
I like the Eagles. I think they're deep at every position. I thought I was a little bit worried about Jalen coming off of a 2.5-week layoff with no live action. I don't even know what these guys are allowed to do in the concussion protocol, whether they can work out by themselves. So the fact that he showed a little bit of rust really didn't surprise me. But hey, listen, guys, the Eagles are deep. They've got a great offensive line, good skill position players, good defensive line. The rookies in the defensive backfield can let us play man or zone now. So it would not surprise me at all to see the Eagles make a nice Super Bowl run here. I do believe they're going to beat the Rams this Sunday.
John? The running back has been very, very special too. And they're able to overcome injuries at receivers during the season. My only fear is Matthew Stafford. That guy can fire the ball.
He's good.
It will be interesting to see what Vic Fangio's defensive scheme will be. I'm sure he's not going to revolutionize what he does, but he plays a lot of coverages, and it will be interesting to see how Stafford matches up with the Eagles defense.
Can't wait. Hey, Ken, I know we talked about this about 5 years ago, but back in 2018, when I was out in Canton for the Hall of Fame induction of Brian Dawkins, I spotted this at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. How cool was that, having your jersey at the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
It's really cool, but it's one of the great injustices. How do you think Jim Kelly feels about sharing that cubicle with me? People. I'd like to get a picture of his face when he first saw that. But hey, here's my explanation of that story. We did a Stars reunion a few years ago. I had the trophy. Carl Peterson asked me to send it to Canton. The guy calls me and he goes, throw your game jersey in there. We need something for the display. The next thing I know, my jersey's hanging in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It is undeserved, but it's there, and I'm proud of it, and I'm not going to take it back.
Yeah, who's that Kelly guy? That is awesome. Well, guys, this was loads of fun. Congrats again in advance on being honored by the Philly Sports Writers Association Thursday at the DoubleTree by Hilton. That's in Cherry Hill. I believe there are still some tickets available. Ken, I will see you there. John, as I said, I'll send you pictures after the fact. Wish you could be there. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be with you guys. Take care, everybody.